Hello my friends, good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. We're back at the drawing table again this morning with the goal of improving drawing ability, particularly as it relates to Graphic Novel Pro, the upcoming course at SVS that starts January 22nd, 2026. So I've been using marker paper with markers and then colored pencil on top. The reason why I use the marker paper is I love the way the markers glide on it. And then I've been using colored pencils since, oh my goodness, many moons ago when I was in college at design school. I fell in love with Prismacolor colored pencils and have never fallen out of love with them. They've just stayed with me the whole time. So I like the sensitivity of the dark and light that you can get with them because they've got a little bit more waxiness than a lot of colored pencils, and that allows the pressure that the page receives to just give a lot better feedback for me. Yep. This is my man Caden. I'm working on being a little bit more consistent with him. You can tell my anatomy is not the best, but that's okay. We're going to keep working. Looking at a Pinterest page of a guy who draws skulls. He didn't have anything quite like this with the headphones and the baseball head, but these are a couple of kind of close attempts at trying to see a little bit more about his style, because I thought it was a really interesting look at skulls that I hadn't really seen before. And a little bit of He-Man on Battle Cat, trying to just understand anatomy and the interaction of kind of the mounted animal, so to speak. So that's kind of what I was studying there a little bit. This was just a little bit of random practice I did yesterday. And yeah, here we are. Here we find ourselves today. And what I may do is I may start to undo these pages because they're just glued in and they fall out really easy anyway. There we go. Maybe I'll just keep these in a folder somewhere. Alright. Oh, also, I have this beautiful makeup brush that I use to brush eraser bits off of my work. So that's kind of nice. I think the N2 is the one I'm using. And the reason why I'm using it is because it's a lighter gray and I have a bottle of ink that goes with it so I can recharge it when it runs out. So that's kind of nice. Suppose I ought to get a little something up for photo reference. Let's see what we can look at today. I would like to get Caden nailed down a little bit better, but trying to think of the best way to do that. I don't know if that's to do only the faces. See, I got a drawing I did many moons ago. Let me grab it. Just a basic comparison of some of the characters. So this is Caden, number 14, in his kind of everyday clothes, jeans, some cool sneakers, a cool kind of athletic top. This is Maya. This is Remy, Caden's best friend, and this is Allie or Allison. Those are just a couple of the characters that are in it, and I was mainly just trying to get an idea for the style. So it's okay, but again, I'm not super great with anatomy. So there are things about it that don't anchor well and don't feel right. The legs, and some just feel weird. The poses feel weird. It just, none of it is is where I want it to be. But this is where I am right now. And just for your information, this is a very frustrating place to be, and you've probably been there before. So if you feel like my artwork is good, you look at it and you're like, wow, that's really good. I understand I don't feel that way about it. There are elements of it that are communicating what I want, but there's so much there that's not the way that I want it to be. And I've become more aware of that as I've gone further along. So that's just the nature of learning and growing in art and striving to get better. But because there is information there that I like, I will keep it handy, just so I can remember the things that I do like and try to maintain that even as I grow in my abilities. Now, On my Pinterest page, I have multiple different pin boards, but one of them I called comic page art. And really, it's not just comic page art, it's also drawing. People who just have a great way of drawing or coloring or anything that kind of relates to creating comic page art. So it's not always panel by panel. In fact, there's a lot of more art tutorials. So I guess when I called it that, I was thinking more of my development to be able to create comic page art. Now, this artist, this says Charlie Milton on the account. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the way that this artist thinks is kind of similar to the way that I think. So I think I'm going to use that as drawing. And what he does is he starts with the geometry first, which makes sense to me. Then he does a stylized kind of version. And then he tones down his cartoony stylized version to make it a little bit more realistic. Not a lot, but a little bit. So if the features are a little bit more exaggerated in his cartoony version, he dials it back a little bit and makes it just seem a little bit more realistic, but not to the point where it loses the nice vibe and the free feel. A little bit, but I don't know. I honestly think his final rendering, okay, this guy's name is Ben Eblin, so I'm just getting to know him. I don't know him, but his art is wonderful and beautiful and fantastic. So I'm not going to use my marker to start with. I'm going to just use a really, just a prism colored black pencil. And I'm going to try and imitate his stuff, which is going to be kind of interesting. So if I were to do this, there's one head. There's the next head. There's the next head. Neck, and then down to the next head, to the next head, to the next head. And then to the next head, to the next head, to the next head. Whew. Alright, so that's kind of the placement, sort of. Alright, so he's using what looks like the Loomis method. And I'm halfway talking out loud because just to help me think hopefully clearly about what method is being used. And interesting, I just noticed something. The forehead lines, which I almost always draw parallel, his are not parallel. This one that's further away kicks out a little bit more, and this one comes down a little bit more. Now that is a very subtle thing that makes a big difference. That's really interesting. So visually, one of the things that I didn't like about my heads is they're often too stagnant, like they don't have any life in them. They feel like it's not, it's clunky. That's the word. My stuff feels so clunky, and there's an elegance to some of these, and I understand some of that comes from just practice and getting better at it. But then there's also observable things that you miss. Right? You're looking at this thing and you think you see it, but you don't really see it yet. And that's really weird. But for an artist who's been doing this for a while, you probably understand exactly what I'm talking about. There's so much to look at and so much to see, and you're only picking up on kind of what you're familiar with, and you have to learn. Oh, here's another really interesting thing. This eyeball is happening, the center of the sphere is lining up with the corner. I would have always pushed the eye over into this space thinking that it happened in this plane, and even though I know there's a cutback in here, wow. I think that might be really, really helpful developmentally for me. I think that might have been another big nugget of good knowledge. Now, good. I'm glad that there's no eye really here. There's a little bit of an indication of maybe like a cut into the skull, like where the eye might be, but there's not the trying to squeeze information into a space that it doesn't exist, which sometimes I find myself doing because I don't understand that it's okay to hide the eye. I'm like, no, it's there. I must draw it. It's still there. It didn't disappear, but it's covered. Something's blocking the view, so, and that's okay. So you don't have to draw all the information. And I think sometimes that might be why my anatomy looks jacked up, as I'm like with the eye. I don't understand how when it rotates the relationships all change. From straight on, I kind of have at least a working knowledge of what that should look like proportionally, how everything should line up, but I don't have the working knowledge of how when the head rotates, those things, how do they still line up with each other, just in a different way. And that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to getting information on. Now, this is interesting because the neck appears to come up to the nose in his drawing, which my angles are off, so it now, because I didn't draw it as accurately as his, does not look quite right, but that's all right. I mean, we'll take it for now. Okay. So yeah, so something like that. He did draw kind of like the temple, which is interesting. He drew it to right here instead of up here. I would have normally drawn it to here, but he didn't do that. So that's interesting. And then he did draw the indicator for that part of the ear. And instead of making it, it connects, like visually, it kind of connects with the jawline a little bit. That's interesting. I wonder if that's true on everybody's face. Different jawlines kind of behave a little bit differently in his other drawings, so that's interesting. Right there. And then that goes over to the nose as well. So I think his cheekbone was a little bit higher than mine, but something like that. It's kind of not horrible, so that's good. It's always helpful when it's kind of not horrible. It makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. So I like it. And now what I'm doing is I'm trying to come back and kind of emulate the line weights that he chose. While I probably would do it a little bit differently myself, I want to understand kind of his thing, because again, there's probably information lurking in there that I have not yet understood. So pretty cool there. All right, I'm going to move on to his next one now, which is built off of the same basic structure, but is oddly different. And I wonder, as I'm looking at it, it almost looks like the head is turned more, but I don't think it is, which shows me yet again that I do not understand anatomy. It looks so much more like a profile when he puts the details in it. I wonder if there's a way for me to share this with you. No, I guess not. I'm sorry. There's not a way for me to share it with you right now. I've got to figure out how to do that. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out at some point so I can share like the Pinterest page. That might be a good idea, to pull the Pinterest page over in here, so that you can see the reference that I'm looking at. That would be really helpful. Let me see. I'm going to mess up the screen here for a little bit. Oh. Okay, it won't let me mess with it while we're filming, so that's fine. I'll figure it out outside of class time. I think I will anyway. I don't know what's going on. Okay. There's some weird stuff happening, but I don't know what it is. Okay. Anyway, we're going to kick on to the second one, but what I was saying is it looks a lot more like a profile view, even though it's not, which is really interesting to me, and how information registers. Gosh, this is so interesting. He's got glasses there, but I don't want to do the glasses yet. He's got the nose, and the shape of the nose definitely changes. He carved out the nose from what he had done before. No, it does not scoop it. It goes almost straight. Huh. Man, this is so interesting. Wow, this is interesting. I do not understand about the face at all. It's like when it comes down to what I really see, everything I'm looking at is a shock or a surprise or it's something that just catches me off guard, or I wouldn't have guessed, or really interesting. That's a horrible rendering of what he did. That's higher up on his, but it's alright. We're just learning, people. Try not to be too critical of myself, even as I'm intentionally being critical of myself. Oh, he's got a beautiful ellipse for the hat. Oh, I love this ellipse. I think I need to rotate my page to accomplish this ellipse. This ellipse that he draws here is so believable, and it's a couple of things are going on. The curve starts happening at just the right point, and it doesn't lose its flow. That's a really pretty ellipse, man. This guy's put in some time, I think. Put in a lot of time. Ellipses are one of those things where you have to... they just need the work. It's hard to understand them early on. And he certainly rocked that one. We got the next one too, because the picture over here has it again. Alright, so he's got one of kind of the Kangol caps on, I guess is what, I don't know how to say that, but I darkened that more than he did. Let's see. Okay, so again, the socket would be somewhere around in there, and I think but the eyelid is over here. Look at that, man. That makes it feel so much more profile, but it's not. It's still got the 3/4 view. That's wild. Now, he's also got glasses. Now, this is another interesting thing. So his glasses, I think he might have done this digitally, because he snapped his line for the glasses. That's like a... what I mean by snap is, maybe he didn't, but he sure treated it the right way. Oh, it goes right through the... Man. Mm. Yeah, his eye is higher up or his ear is lower down. Something about my angles is not right, and something about this is a little bit too smushed. I think it's got an angle more like that. Huh. Yeah, this neck definitely angles back more than the first one we did. Okay, now again, his ellipses are almost unbelievably good. Like, it's almost too good to be true. So I don't know if he's using digital or if it's pencil. It looks kind of like pencil, but I'm so not well versed in digital. Yeah, and then this ellipse has the heavy weight the opposite direction. So that's another really interesting thing. So like the darkness of it is on. Ooh, this side. I don't like erasing, but in here I got way too heavy. I'm gonna try and erase. It's probably gonna be a disaster. God. His treatment of this is so sophisticated and elegant. And what I mean by that is, on one ellipse, it looks like he rotated his hand one direction, and on the other ellipse, it's like he rotated his hand in the other direction, making the symmetry of the glasses reiterated in such a simple graphic way that you would completely not realize, oh, my ellipses look so clunky compared to his. Oh, yeah. I've spent hours on ellipses and well, we're here to grow, friends. We're here to grow. Wow. I have never thought about doing glasses that way, where you change the direction of your ellipse to give you a better symmetry. Meaning, I always tend to draw my ellipses counterclockwise, and he did counterclockwise here, but this one he did clockwise. That's pretty amazing. Okay, now I'm going back and I'm going to darken in some of the parts that look dark to me that he did. So, again, his style is certainly much more refined than mine. So this attempt here that I'm doing is not going to really follow the flow as well. But we'll kick it off here. We'll get it going. Another thing that he does, and I've noticed some other artists do this, is he gives these contour lines, or these, not maybe not contour lines, but these lines that help define the surface just a little bit. They're subtle, they're light, they don't detract at all. They give just a little bit more information to understand shape better. It's funny, he really darkens in the back side of that ear and the underside of the ear a lot. He kind of cuts it back that way a little bit, which is interesting. It's probably one of the darker portions of what he's got kicking there. And then the top part of the eyelid gets a lot more weight to it, and the top of the glasses get a lot more weight to it right there as they curl around to this side. It's interesting. His forehead has a lot more to it, and I feel like his forehead does not curve as much as mine. I give my dome like a real strong curve. That's another thing that looks a lot better, that I hate about my characters. I've been drawing their forehead like super curved, like really early, and his is a lot more angular. It makes it look a lot more believable. I always wondered why I had like these weird looking heads That's one thing for sure. So far I've picked up at least 3 really valuable things. Let me see if I can recap what they are. Um, this nose is not right. It goes more like that before it changes direction. That's a little bit better. All right, first thing that I learned that was really helpful was the eye and the placement of the eye within the shape of the skull. That this corner portion, super duper important, this placement. And I've been pushing it too forward so that it sat on a flat plane of the front portion of the face, which is not what happens. There's much more dynamic geometry going on than just what you start with the Loomis head. And I think that's where the Loomis head portion, like at the very beginning, is super simple. The Iron Man head, that to me is not difficult to understand at all. I've spent a lot of time drawing 3D objects, and so that portion doesn't, no mystery there. This part, where you start to carve away sections of the geometry and you get these additional planes, the added complexity and how all those pieces connect, that's really challenging. So the eye moving back underneath this corner piece, super duper helpful. This on the ellipses, switching the rotation of how you do the ellipses is fantastic. Very excited to see that and notice that and understand what, at least what it appears to accomplish on a page. It's super exciting for me. And then the last one, the rounded portion of the forehead that I do is not as rounded as I make it, which will hopefully save me some alien looking figures in the future moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. Okay. This dude has got some monster eyebrows. And he did them nice and light, so they're not super obvious. He didn't put much into the moustache either. He didn't make it super heavy, I think, because maybe it's a lighter colored mustache or something, and he didn't want it to dominate his work, so that's kind of interesting. Let's see. Man, it's almost time to go. I can't believe it. All right, well, we'll at least attempt this final character before we go, and maybe we'll see if we can implement some of the things we've learned so far. I'm just going to go ahead and put the eye socket in there, man. A little bit dark. Probably went too hard on that because I'm excited about how it's going to change my artwork. Now we see more of the underside of the cap. This ellipse. His ellipses are phenomenal. I'm going to have to look and see if Ben Ebler has anything online where you can watch him draw live, because I would be really interested. Ben Eblin, not Ebler. Eblin. I would be really interested to see his process. Gosh, this still can't seem... Oh, that's why I put the curve to... Okay. There we go. It's funny how things, one decision or one mark on a page can really alter what is going to happen for everything else when you're dealing with geometry like this. Now I wonder if he draws this same geometry every single time and then carves away at it. Like, that tends to be my approach, I think. So I don't know if he does that. It's really hard to tell from his construction lines. It doesn't look like that's what he's doing. So I'm not sure if his studies, I just don't know. And maybe he does, and maybe it's just hard to tell at this stage that that's how it developed. I mean, I can certainly see the similarities from this to this to this, but construction line-wise, it definitely does not look like this drawing got repeated 3 times. And so I guess maybe it's just enough to have this as your underlying or your first thought, and then maybe if you have a good enough understanding of that, it just kind of carries through. Gosh, his jaw looks so much bigger, the distance from here to here. What did I miss? First of all, this chin looks like it comes out further. Oy, this looks horrible, guys. He's drawing construction lines, and I have no idea what they mean. Like, this is like a triangle, I think, which is probably informing the angle of the lip a lot more. Yeah, his lip is not angling up. It's angling this and this. And that I got pretty dark on, so it's going to be hard to take that back. That shadow's going to stay in there. Wow. Okay, that looks more believable, but really clunky. I think the other thing that I'm learning too, as I'm kind of getting my teaching licensure, is that you can only take in so much information at a time. It's important not to try to cram in more information that the brain can hold, because if you do, you actually start to detract from your learning. It actually becomes a negative situation. So I think I've got my 3 key points to remember: where that eye stays in space or changes in space in relationship to the skull. Okay, right there. Okay, that's really good to know. Don't make your forehead super rounded. And then using ellipses in 2 different directions. For things that are symmetrical. And the reason why that comes into play for me is because bikes, like bicycles, motorcycles, things like that will be a part of my comic, and so it's going to be very helpful to understand how those things interact. Yeah, I think I would do really well to take a class from somebody who really understands this stuff, because it would take some of the guesswork out of it. I wouldn't just be spinning my wheels doing the same errors over and over and over again. But as it stands right now, I have about all on my plate that I can handle. I'm getting my teaching licensure, I'm teaching full-time, and I'm taking the Graphic Novel Pro class. So I don't think there's room in my life. I'm also married with a wonderful family, so I don't think that now is the time to add another thing. But for my progression at some point, I think it would be super helpful to learn from somebody how to take the guesswork out of some of these things. So that'll be later on. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I've got a pretty full plate already swinging. We'll see. Who knows? Who knows what this crazy journey's gonna lead to? But one thing I am convinced of is that it's important to show up and do this daily. Get in some reps. Be strategic about what I'm learning and why I'm learning it. Again, if you don't know, I'm doing all of this so that I can produce my story, The Legend of Hairpan, which I've been writing for quite some time, and have produced one comic in 2016, so it's been like a decade since I put it out, and I just feel compelled to kind of get more of it out there. It's a long story, so it will take a little while. Oh, this is so interesting. I drew this portion too high up, and it immediately made me think of a conductor's cap, So that's interesting how that proportion, just that simple misfire, which is not super huge, but had a significant impact on the meaning of the shape. So a conductor's cap and one of these, I call them Kangol because there's a brand, I think it's called Kangol, that I'm most familiar with. Oh, this wraps down. Oh gosh, that should be straight. Ooh, okay, that's getting muddy. Didn't do that part correctly. Ear is not in the right place. It's affecting the hat. So all that stuff is going on and not great with this one. So, gosh, it's so interesting. Yeah, so interesting. Not great here. That feels a lot more. Gosh, his intersection of these 2 points is so elegant that this line just kind of stops right when it meets the bill. Really nice. Really nice. This eraser is not showing me the love. Let me see if this one will do better. Oh yeah, this one's much more better for this. By the way, these Pentel Click erasers are fantastic, in my opinion. They do a great job of pulling up graphite, and if you put like a little bit of artist tape in here, they hold your little short Prismacolor colored pencils perfectly when you're done, when you get down to the nubby nubs, so you just get more life out of them. So I highly recommend these. I'm not paid, and it's so funny that people sometimes don't share information because nobody pays them to do it, and that's fine. I mean, I get it. In the world we live in, you can make your money by doing that. To me as a teacher, it's kind of like I'm trying to give the best information to my students that I can, trying to teach them the things that have really helped me along the way. And in the process of doing that, I'm going to do some products. I'm going to talk about some products that have really made drawing more enjoyable or easier or better. And I'm also going to talk probably about products that I think are worth avoiding, that don't achieve the desired result. That's just sort of, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. So it's kind of funny when people say, well, they don't pay me, so I'm not going to talk about their product. And that's not, I guess, super common in the teaching world. It's not common at all. I don't think teachers do that because the goal is to really help people. But it's just funny, I think, when people do that. It's and I'm sure I'm guilty of doing it. It's so funny, like, right, we sit there and we call something out that we don't like, and then we find out later, oh, that's something that I do. Maybe I should work on that. So I've probably done this before, but it just exposes a little bit that you're trying to make a buck. Like, hey, I'm not really in this to help anybody. I'm just kind of trying to help myself here. So, and hey, that's all right. Everybody's got to make a living, man, for sure. So, okay, that's a little bit better. I don't love it because of all the misfires, I guess, cause a lot of visual static now because there's so much erasing that's happened. So not my favorite go at it. And his eye is way more anatomically correct in here. That looks better. And now his eyebrows, I did something major wrong. Okay, so the lenses on this one tilt forward. The lenses on this guy do not tilt forward. They're more up and down. And now I'm noticing that more because his eyebrow starts somewhere around in here, which seems an interesting place to start, especially given where I've landed with my stuff. If my thing, it looks good on his drawing, but on my drawing it makes it look like something ain't right. And something probably ain't right. Bro, you ain't right. That ain't right. Something about that ain't right. Okay. I think we got to be happy with that because I am over time. But there are my 3 hits at it. Again, this was Ben Eblin's work. You can check him out at Ben Eblin Design on Instagram. And these were just 3. He obviously had 3 more and 3 more here. Kind of looked like a sea captain. And then a girl with dreads down here. So really cool looking artwork. I got a long way to go to have the knowledge that he has that went into drawing these. But for today, imitation hopefully is the highest form of flattery. Ben Eblin, thank you for putting your work out there for us to look at. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, have a great day.